Give a quick review of what we did last week. We started talking about the fact there's two pages, right? We talked about the fact that there are 7 basic structures, that basically 7 possible components that any Gemara sugya could possibly have. Okay, that's it. Any sugya, any discussion in the Gemara that you would take any piece could be broken down into one of 7 logical structures. And understanding these 7 structures and understanding how they interact with each other holds the key to being able to decipher literally any Gemara. And as we said, that although it sounds a little presumptuous, because it is a little more difficult than what it sounds like when I say it like this, but it's actually, once you crack the system, and it's a system because it's a independent discipline, and you need to figure out, like any other discipline, it would be like someone who's trying to learn math, or trying to learn algebra, and he sees letters, so he's trying to read it. It says A, B, ab. He's trying to figure out how ab plus divided by ba, equals whatever. And he's like, I don't understand this. Doesn't make any sense. He's trying to translate the word ab and the word ba. But because if you learn math, and you'll explain that A is some kind of could be one kind of whatever, and then X and Y and Z, and then you got to understand how you're looking. You got to understand how this discipline works. So it's not just about looking at the words and trying to translate them, as we mentioned last week. All too often, people think that the hurdle to learning Gemara is a language barrier. It isn't, because learning Gemara is not about understanding what the Gemara is saying. It's figuring out what the Gemara is doing, not what it's saying, what it's doing. After you figure out what it's doing, it's really easy to understand what it's saying. Okay, and in order to figure that, we need to understand these 7 structures and how they correspond to each other. So, without looking at your notes, let's see if we can recreate. Let's see if we can recreate the 7 structures.
Statement.
Okay, good. A memra. Okay, which is a statement. Okay. Next is a sheila, which we said either a query or a question. Okay. Next, what would come logically after a sheila? A tshuva, right? An answer. Okay. And then what would follow? What could be
an attack?
An attack, right? A kushya, very good. Kushya, which is an attack. Next,
Terutz.
A terutz, good, which is what?
Rebuttal.
Rebuttal, but we're going to call it either a rebuttal or a removal of an attack. It's important. We're actually going to call it removal of an attack. Okay, and we'll see later on of attack. Okay, and what would be another component? Oh, I need to. Oh, wait a second. This part you guys don't have either. Let me see if I have. Yes, here. Good, because these are really important. Here. Thanks. Those I've stapled because those are basically that is, and you'll see there's explanations for what each one is, and then more explanation. What else? What did we see that there could be after terutz, after the removal of attack? Yeah, good. Which is a proof. Okay, and last but not least, stira, very good. Stira, which is a rejection. Okay? These are the 7 steps. Now, it doesn't mean that every sugya follows all 7. Absolutely not. Some sugyat will have only 2 stages or 3 stages. But what we're gonna do now is we're gonna see what we saw in the story that we played around with it last week, but we're gonna expand on it a little bit. Did we talk last week? I don't remember. Did we talk last week about the difference between a she'ela and a kushya? Did we last week? Oh, you just saw the class a few hours ago. So did we talk? Did we talk a little bit about the difference between a she'ela and a kushya?
Yeah, the she'ela is like a benign.
Good. Okay. So let's remember. A she'ela is a question. It comes from a place of ignorance. Okay, meaning it's just looking for more information. Okay, let's go to the story that we did last week. Okay, let's take this example from my made-up little sugya that has. This is exercise 1, the one with Superman, right? So an individual lifted a car over their head with their bare hands. This would be a statement, right? Just a statement. How big was the car? This is an obvious she'ela. Now, it doesn't. it's coming from a place of ignorance. It's asking an innocent question. I don't have enough information. What you have told me isn't sufficient for me to understand. Person runs into the room and says, I just saw an individual lifting a car with their bare hands. And I'm not sure why this is so amazing. And I want to find out. So I ask, how big was the car? Why is that a question a good question, as we said last week? Because if the answer to the question is, well, the car is this big, then there's nothing significant about what you just said. But if the answer is it's a full-size 7-seater Dodge Caravan, well, now I understand why you're all excited. But now I have a problem with what you say, which is what? That's ridiculous. Okay? It isn't humanly possible, scientifically, for one person to lift such weight. What would be the what is this? What stage is this? A Kushya. So the difference now, a Kushya, and this is what we're going to practice today. The difference between a Sheila and a Kushya. A Sheila, like we said, is innocent. It's just looking for more information. Okay. A Kushya, it only sounds like a question. Okay, but it's actually coming from a place of certainty. Because I'm trying to basically say you're wrong. That is not possible. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. Either because, logically speaking, it doesn't make sense, or because I'm a scientist and I know that it's just impossible based on what I know about science. And I'm basically hidden inside any kushya is hiding the statement, you are wrong. Okay? Now, it usually will not be phrased as you are wrong. Usually it will be a question, but not a question, it will be an attack, which is, how can but doesn't it say over there opposite? So and this is probably one of the most common kushiyat is, but over there it says something different. That is a kushiyah because actually that's basically saying, you're wrong. And I know you're wrong because over there it says something else.
It doesn't sound at all like a question. Like it doesn't sound like there would be a conflict between whether it's a question or kushya.
Yeah, but we will show now how confusing it is, and it is very, very important. This is the first thing that we're going to do, is to make sure we understand the difference between a Sheila and a kushya. Because the way I phrase it here, it's pretty obvious. Yeah. It isn't humanly possible. This is in a direct conflict.
There's no question.
But a lot of times, usually, we will find ourselves well trained, so we won't make this mistake. Because when we find these things, 9 out of 10 times, it will be clear to us because of what we're going to do today in the next couple of weeks. That this is a sheila, this is a kushya. Is this just looking for more information, or is this making a statement of certainty? Okay.
Is there a lot of confusion between a kushya and a rejection?
A rejection.
Yeah.
You jumped all the way to the end. Why?
No. Well, because I mean, I can foresee situations where maybe you're not sure about that either, because sometimes the kushya sounds like
we'll see.
A rejection.
Sometimes we won't be sure. Sometimes the Gemara itself won't be sure, and we'll debate about someone else's argument. Is it this or is it that? We'll see. But one of the things that we're going to do, and that we'll get to at the end of this of today's class, is to see that one of the best ways of being able to tell the difference between the different stages is that they have different what we're going to call from now on function words. What do I mean by that? Let's say I don't speak English very well, and I look at the second line here, and I say I don't know what all the words mean. I don't know what car means. I don't know what big is, but I know what the word how means. Okay, it's usually. It would be enough for me to know. I don't need to know what the whole sentence is saying. As long as I understand that the word how means
question.
How, I know, this is probably going to be a question.
No, but it's going to be a question about how.
Well, it depends how it's going to continue. You're right.
In other words, how can it be? How can it, yeah?
Well, it depends. No, so sometimes it'll depend. But a lot of times, most of the time we'll see that there are key words, function words, that by definition are going to let us know. I've been like warning, like a huge sign saying, you're coming up to a kushya, you're about to, just like we saw that there are function words about, you're coming up to a quote from the Torah, right? We've seen that. We know. Even if I don't know exactly what function it's playing, I don't know what the quote is necessarily going to say, but I know that I'm about to read a quote from the Torah, I'm about to read a quote from a Tanakh source. How do we know? Because it's because we understood. We now figured out how to detect that. So the same thing is, but this is a lot more complex. Okay, this is the real deal. Okay, that was like what we did with the 3 levels of sources. That was easy. Okay, now we're coming to the stuff. But okay. So what I'd like to do now is just because it sounds like it should be very easy to make the difference, to tell the difference between a Sheila and a Kushya, right? So let's play around with it. Let's see really how easy or how not or how difficult it is. So what we're going to do now, we'll do this. We'll start this off together ourselves, like all of us together, just whet our appetite, and then we'll do exercise 3, and then we'll move on from there. So exercise 2, what I'd like to try to do is I'm going to go through my fictitious story, which I put here, and I built this story in a very artificial way. I basically built the story to fit all 7 stages one after the other. You will never see a sugya. Well, I've seen it 1 or 2, but you will practically never see a sugya that is so neatly ordered, with this logical order of, a statement, a question that tries to get more information, there's an answer. Once they have an answer, we have a better understanding of what was originally said. It's attacked. That attack is rejected. There's a proof brought for what, and then usually doesn't happen that, clear cut. It's usually a lot more complicated than that. But just for our purposes, this is what I decided to do. Okay, I decided to put it together. Everyone with me? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, what other questions? Okay. Let's read the statement. An individual lifted a car over their head with their bare hands. What other questions could a person ask here that would make sense? A person comes in and says, "An individual, I just saw someone lifted a car over their head with their bare hands."
When? Why?
Well,
okay. When? When did this happen? When did this happen? Okay, that's a question, right?
Yeah.
Question?
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions?
I mean, are there questions that you would be
clarification. Someone says something, you want to make sure you understand what they're saying.
Was it a real car?
Okay.
Which is pretty much, I guess, what they asked there. But
okay. Other question? You said you asked me.
Why did they do it?
Why? Okay. Why did they do it? Why did they? Okay. Could someone come up? These are
along with the same lines as the first one. What happened before he did this?
Okay. Wait. So wait. This is a Sheila, and this is a Sheila. So he's saying.
So what happened before?
What happened before?
Did this?
Okay. What happened before? Good. What happened?
An individual. It doesn't have to be a person.
Right.
It could be an animal.
Right. Okay.
Where?
Okay. Where? But let's see. Can someone give me a kushya?
Sure. No, we didn't.
What?
A
kushya. An attack. Attack this statement.
Impossible.
What?
Impossible. It's impossible.
Why is it impossible?
Well, that's a kushya, isn't it? It's
Well, you got to back it up with something. You think I just said it did happen. You tell me it didn't happen.
The car is too heavy. The car is too heavy.
What?
The car is too heavy.
So here, I'm going to put that up like this. Here, let me switch it. Here,
But it should be in the phrase of a question, right?
Yeah, it sounds like a question.
So how about, where did he find a car in that village in which there are no cars?
Wait a second, let's take that as an example. Good. He said, where did he find a car? Okay, say that again.
Where did he find a car in that village where there are no cars?
He find this supposed car. Okay, good. Thank you for being a guinea pig. Is that a question or a kushya? Think carefully. I come in and say, I saw someone lift a car with their bare hands. And you say, where did he find the car when there are no cars here?
I think that's a kushya.
Is it a Sheila or a kushya?
The only thing that makes it a kushya is the word suppose.
Yeah.
What?
There's an attack there.
But you're not, in here, we're not questioning what happened. We're questioning
You're not looking for more information.
The actual information that he's giving you.
Right.
So you're not questioning any facts, really. You're questioning.
So you're saying this is a Sheila or kushya?
No, I'm saying it's a kushya because you're. No.
It's a Sheila. You're still assuming, okay? Here's another way to tell the difference between Sheila and a kushya. A Sheila assumes that the person or the statement that's being said is true. and you just want to find out more information. A kushya assumes that the person or the text that they're talking about is wrong.
So the supposed is you're erasing the word supposed.
Yeah, because I was reading my own thing into it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but if let's say you were to ask a question, so someone come with a kushya.
So
Yes.
we are not on the moon, therefore he could not have lifted the car. We're not on the zero
But
gravity.
that's you're making a statement.
No, that's a kushya.
You're making a statement. Give me as a kushya.
Was he
Okay.
on the moon when he did this?
Is that a kushya or sheila? You're assuming that it happened,
we've
and
never
you're
heard-
trying to figure out did it happen this way or that way.
We've never heard of such a thing before.
Very good. That's a kushya.
But there's no doubt that's a kushya. That's not a
We've
question.
never heard. Or you could say, who's ever heard of such a thing? That would be a kushya. Because they're basically saying that can't be. I'm not saying the words it can't be. I'm saying, we've never heard of such a thing. Such a thing. Sorry, excuse my handwriting. This would be a kushya. Or
That's also not a question. You said
or have we ever heard of such a thing? Okay. Have we ever heard of such a thing before? Here we go. Sorry. Have we ever? I'll give you another example. Could this be?
but in your own example,
What?
in your own example, it's not a question. It isn't humanly possible. It's just a statement.
No. How big is the car? What?
Your kushya here in the above, right? It's not a.
So you're right. This should be written. Is it humanly possible scientifically for one person to lift such a weight?
Okay.
That's right. If this was if this were written in the Gemara, it would not be written as it isn't humanly possible. It would be stated as like, is it humanly possible for such a thing to take place? Okay. Now, let's say that was the question. Let's say that was the kushya. Is it human? Here, I'm going to erase this because I want to show you guys. I want you guys to get a sense, and then we're going to go to a text which is a little bit more significant in my Superman story. Okay. So let's say. That was what was the kushya that I just said?
Have you ever heard of it?
Is it humanly
Is
possible?
it humanly possible?
Is it humanly possible?
Such a thing to happen.
Possible, etc., etc. Okay, so this is what? This is a kushya, right?
Yeah.
And so in the Gemara, a kushya is always phrased in the form of a question.
Almost always. I'll give you an example. We're going to see sometimes it could say, no, we're not going to do it. I don't want to confuse us. We'll get there. We'll get to see different kinds, okay?
But if it's a question, it could also be he's just inquiring.
What?
Right, and that's
Maybe-
a question. That's a shayla.
Yeah, maybe he just an alien from space. He doesn't know.
So he's saying, if you're just looking at the words, yes, one could be asking this question as an innocent thing. Is it humanly possible? Answer, yes or no. But in the context, sometimes there will be things where we won't 100. There will be some functions some function words which will say that usually it's a she'ela, but sometimes when it's phrased in a certain context, it will be a kushya. Okay, but 9 out of 10 times it's going to be one or the other. So this is the kushya. Is it humanly possible for someone to do such a thing? How would we with this story that we're using right now? How would we remove this attack? What would be possible tirutzim? Okay, we're going to try to use the Hebrew words. What would be possible tirutzim? Now, if you look at a little handout from last week, okay, and this is important. So while you guys are trying to think, look in the definition of a tirutz. Removal of an attack. This removes from the one who was attacking the ability to say you are wrong, and limits them to saying you might be wrong. The tirutz is not trying to say something definitive. All it cares about, is saying you're so sure. You're attacking me, right? I said someone picked up a car with their hands, and you're attacking me, saying that can't be. It doesn't make sense because of yada yada yada. The removal of the attack, all it's trying to do is to saying, your statement of certainty that I'm wrong isn't necessarily correct. Okay? So, okay, that's important. A terutz is not something definitive. All it's doing is saying, you're so sure that you're right with your attack on me? It's not necessarily, it's not, you're saying, I know for sure that you're wrong. And the removal of the attack says, you can't be so sure. What would be possible terutzim of, is it humanly possible to lift a car over your head?
There are some very light cars.
Good. I would phrase it like this.
What if it's a light car?
Maybe it was a small, a toy car. Now, have I said now that, back to the original story, that it was a toy car? Do we know for sure that it was a toy car? No. All we know, that based on what we know so far, it could be a toy car. I don't know if it was a toy car or not, but neither do you. So why are you attacking me? Why are you attacking my story? You don't know if it was a big car or a little car. Maybe it was a toy car. What could be other terutzim?
Maybe he was a very strong man.
Okay. Maybe he was very strong. Or you can say, or you can even try to say, one could say, okay, oh yeah, okay, we'll use the maybe. Maybe he was one of those super strong guys who pulls trucks with his teeth, and those trains and planes, whatever, all those things we see. Maybe he was extremely strong. Steroids, okay. Someone said before, great answer. Someone said maybe this story took place on the moon. Well, right? Who said that before? That's a great terrorist. Right? You said that? That's a great terrorist. Right? Now again, maybe it happened on the moon. Maybe on the moon.
He didn't say anything about seeing him in person.
Right? Oh.
He just said he did it. He didn't say he saw it.
Right? Maybe it happened on TV. Okay? Now, all of these are possible terutzim, none of which are actually trying to say for sure what the scenario was. All it's doing, all a terutz is trying to do is to remove the attack. It's not necessarily, sometimes it will, okay? But now, if these were the terutzim, what would be the next stage in that conversation? Let's say this was a real conversation, okay? And you said, well, maybe it was a toy car. And I would say, okay, let's go back and ask the person, was it a toy car? No, it wasn't a toy car. So okay, so this terutz is no good. We're back to the Kushya. Well, we have another terutz. Maybe he was extremely strong. Then come back to the original the statement. Look at the source. Ask the person who said it. And maybe you can check the source, and it would say, well, no, it was a 5-year-old kid. Well, there you go. Terutz number 2 is gone too. What about terutz number 3? Well, maybe it was on the moon. And then we would come and say, well, that doesn't make much sense. So we're back to the original Kushya. Or one of them might be accepted. Okay, and that's how a sugya slowly but surely develops, and then it can develop a lot further because we can come and say, okay, well, let's check terutz number 1, and we're going to bring a kushya on this terutz, or we'll bring a proof for this terutz, okay? Because I'm going to go and maybe I could bring a different source that says that if the story was about Matanel Spitz, the Matanel Spitz that day had gotten a toy car for his birthday. Okay, so this now could serve as proof for source number 1. Okay, and then suddenly you have a memra, which started over here, and then you have a kushya on it, and then you have terutzim, and then you have a raya. You have a proof. A raya, proof. Okay, that or you bring a different person who saw the same thing, and he adds more information, and then the raya is then substantiated, or there could be a shelah in the raya. When we say Matanel Spitz, was it Matanel Spitz, son of Rabbi Yair Spitz? It was the Matanel Spitz, the cousin of the one who lives in Toronto, but the same kid. There's another kid that has the same name who lives in Yerushalayim. So which one was it? That's a Sheila. And then there'd be a Tshuva. Oh, we're actually talking about the one in Yerushalayim. We're talking about the one in Yerushalayim. That doesn't help us for our story over here in Toronto. There you go. You're back to the Kushya. Okay? And you can continue this. And this is what a Sugya looks like. You continue and continue until things are clear or definitive, or until you have, well, two possible options, or two that's the way it works. That's when it starts getting loopy. Okay? Any questions up to here? Yes?
So, I'm still struggling with the difference between Sheila and Kushya. So, what would it be fair to say that Kushya is always a question, but it's always a rhetoric question?
It's not asking for more information. It's not coming from
the question. No, the main
it's
thing.
It's not looking for real information. It's not coming from the position of I want more information.
It's not coming from a place of innocence. It's coming from a place of almost of sarcasm. Okay. Now, because it's not a question about what the words are. The question is, what is the intent of this phrase? Of what's the intent of the words? Sometimes, okay, I'm jumping ahead here, but sometimes a Kushya we'll see. I'm going to show you guys soon. You know what? Okay. I was going to give it at the end, but it's okay. We can go in between. There's two pages. Oh, I forgot to put. I promised that I would hole punch every one of my story sheets, so people can put it in binders or things like that. I apologize. So what I've done here, we're not going to go over all this now. We'll go over it later. But what you have here is the key words, the function words, some of the most popular function words in all of Shas, in all of the Gemara, from each one of the 7 categories. Okay? So, if you go to the second page, page 15, okay, because I'm starting to number all the pages from now on, from one being the first ones we gave out, and I counted all of them, and this would be 14, this would be 15. So if you look at the second page, it says Kushya. The ones that are highlighted, by the way, are the ones that we're going to be seeing when we start learning our Gemara, are all the words that we're going to be seeing for the next 2 months or 3 months, function words, okay? So, for instance, the word Pshita. Okay, you guys see it?
Where are you?
I am in page 15. The bottom of the page says 15. Yeah. It says the top of the page, it says Kushya. And these are some of the most common function words. So when you see the word matkif, you know it's about to present an attack. And when it says the word pshita, that's an attack. The word pshita exists on its own, because the word pshita means this is obvious. And that's not really phrased so much as a question, but it's an attack. Because if this is obvious, then there's no point in telling me it. And that's an attack. What are you telling me this for? You don't need to tell me this. I know this. Or, so sometimes it won't necessarily be defined as, it won't be phrased like a sarcastic question, but a lot of times it will be. Okay? So for instance, see the top one, it says, Hatnan, Hatanya, Ha'amar, Haktiv. Ha, the letter Ha before any of these are words that we know. Tnan, we know, is a Mishnah source. Tanya, we know, is a Tanaic source. Amar is an Amoraic source. Ktiv is a Torah source, right? So when any one of those words has the letter Ha before it, the letter Ha basically translates into isn't it? So isn't it said in the Mishnah 1, 2, 3? Doesn't it say in the Torah 5, 6, 7? And that is a phrasing of a kushya, because I'm attacking you. It's basically saying, how could you possibly say this? Doesn't it say something else, the opposite of this, or different than this, from in the Torah, in the Mishnah, in the whatever? Now again, Alec, you could look at that phrasing and say, well, that sounds like a question to me. You're asking me, doesn't it say differently in the Torah? And that could be, yeah, it does. But obviously, that's not what it's saying. It's saying, doesn't it say otherwise in the Mishnah and this in this place with this and this quote? And therefore, how could you possibly be telling me otherwise? How could you possibly be contradicting what it says over there? What would be a terutz? What would be a terutz on a hatnan, on an attack like that? without going into if you had two sources, say, how can you tell me X when it explicitly says Y other place? What would be a way to remove such an attack?
Well, that context is different. That's
Perfect.
Not
This is talking about during the day, this is about during the night, this is talking about men, this is talking about women, this is talking about children, this is talking about adults, this is talking about when you're sick, this is talking when you're healthy.
That's definitive. That you're making a definitive removal. You said before removal is more. It just places doubt.
So if it would be a absolute thing like I just said, it would not be a tirut, it would be a stira, a rejection.
If you were to say
A rejection, because the rejection is definitive. A tirutz is just removing the certainty of the attack. Okay? Yeah.
Sorry. If you were to say yes, but it says over here X, Y, and Z, so you're making a statement, and then you say, oh, but doesn't it say over here that you're wrong? But yeah, but if I look over here, you can say maybe that I am right.
Maybe. Sometimes we say, okay, this is according to his opinion. This is according to, or maybe this is according to that opinion over there, and that's like that opinion over there. Right? That could also be a way to remove the attack. Okay? Or to reject the attack. Okay. So right now, what we did just now is just a little bit to just to get a taste of. Now, being able to identify the 7 stages is absolute key. What we're going to do now, we're gonna do exercise 3. We're gonna play around with this a little bit, similar to what we just did. Now we'll just do it a little bit more. And what we're gonna do next week, or we're gonna start actually with Gemara, and looking at the first sugya within Gemara, identifying the function words, and we're gonna create a 4 or 5 step methodology next week. A 4 or 5 step methodology of when you find yourself in front of a text, a Gemara text that you don't know, what are the 5 steps you should be taking? With the first step being just reading through it quickly, identifying the function words, okay, and saying, okay, there's a function word. I know it because I said at the beginning that there is going to be some vocabulary we're going to have to learn, but it's going to be very, very little. The only vocabulary you actually need to really memorize or really kind of pick up is what is on these 2 pages. Now, I'm not saying you need to go home and start memorizing it, but we're going to start. But some of them are so simple that with time we're going to pick them up. Okay, and once we identify the function words, we create a structure of what the Gemara is going to look like, a flow chart, and then we start actually understanding the words. But we know exactly what's going to be happening. We know who's going to be saying what. We know what source it's going to be, and that's what we're going to be doing. That's the direction we're going in. So next week is going to be the week where we're going to actually apply all the things that we've learned so far into our actual Gemara. Okay, so this is like a promotional pitch. All those of you who are listening from home, promotional pitch for next week. Okay, I'm hoping that we will, by the end of today, we'll be ready to start that next week. So now what I want to do is I want to try to reenact some of the things that we've done so far, which is we're going to look at the Shema, a text we've all seen dozens, hundreds, thousands of times possibly, but I want us to read this text, try as best as we can to read it with new eyes, as if we have never seen it before. Okay. And I wanted to think like Tanaim. Okay, Tanaim have nothing written down in front of them. They look at this, okay, at these psukim, and in it there is here you go. You have a pen?
Yeah, thanks.
In it, there's directives of certain things that they need to do. So if you're a Tana, and all you have is this text of the Shema, I want us to read it as if we're Tanaim, and try to figure out. Assume that it said that this is your directive here. If you are encountering the psukim of Shema for the very first time, and we're told that after reading it, you are obligated to fulfill it. Okay? After reading this, you have to go and fulfill the commandments that it says in here. Okay? But you have an opportunity to first ask some questions and debate amongst yourselves to figure out what and how you need to fulfill this commandment. So what questions would you ask in order to make sure you understood fully what is expected of you? What Sheila-Question would you... So Good. So let's just start reading. We can read in the Hebrew, and we're gonna try to both ask the questions and answer them. Because we'll see once we start. You'll see, and by the end, hopefully, you'll see what it is I hope to get out of this. Because I'll tell you beforehand what I want to get out of this, and we'll, in 20 minutes we'll see if we actually did it. By doing this, I want us to try to get a feel for what the Gemara itself is actually trying to do. Instead of looking at the text as like this distant thing that we're trying to just decipher and we're knocking our heads against, try to crack it, try to figure out what they're saying, to realize that this is just a discussion that people are having. This is what I've said 20 times before. A discussion that they're having about text, about trying to understand what are the psukim saying. And he says, I think this is what it means, and this is my proof for it, and this is what I've learned about it. And they're saying, well, it doesn't make sense, or I've learned something else. And they discuss, and they debate, and they bring proofs. And they say, well, okay, and then the next generation is doing the same thing to the previous text. That's what it is. It's trying to understand the psukim, and then afterwards trying to understand the Tanaic sources. And we're going to try to see how we would do it, and how much question or doubt or things we could come up with. And if you were learning Masechet Brachot, I would then show you how, when I do this specific exercise with my students, they were amazed to see that, we did this for 3-4 days. They were amazed after we looked at the Gemara. Look at that. Half of what we've said came up in the Gemara, in the discussions themselves. And wow, look at that. Because it's not this enigmatic text that is from thousands of years ago. We're just trying to intellectually to be able to say, oh, we can intellectualize and we can learn what they said. We're going to go through the same process. Okay. So we're going to try to do that. Okay. So we're going to start just by collecting questions. That's what we're going to start with. Okay. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. I'm not trying to make up questions that actually may come up. Hear, O Israel, Hashem is our God, Hashem is one.
What does it mean? Hashem is one.
Okay.
What?
What?
Who is Hashem? What?
I'm sorry?
What?
Like one what? Like
one
Hashem
what?
is one what?
Okay.
What is Hashem?
Okay. What is Hashem? Okay.
In heaven.
What is Hashem?
Well, it's a name, but Adoshem
Okay.
is the name of
Okay.
What? What is God?
What?
Who's God?
Who heard it?
It says Shema Yisrael. This is a verb. Okay, this is already a verb, meaning this is a command. Hear, O Israel. So what's your question on that?
In other words, who heard?
Who is it?
No, this is not a story. This is a command. Okay, this is a verb. Hear, O Israel. Someone is saying to you, okay, hear, O Israel. This is, you're commanded to do something here.
Why am I commanded?
So,
who is Israel? Of what relevance is Israel?
Why say Shema? Sorry, why say hear Israel? It should say there's words on a piece of paper. You're not hearing, nobody's speaking.
So what's your question? Again, understanding that you're supposed to read this and then go do something. It's commanding you to do something. So you want to figure out what I need all the information possible to be able to do it as you expect me to do. So you're saying it says, "Hear, O Israel," and therefore, what's your question?
Okay, well, I'm not hearing anything. I'm just being told to do something.
You're saying it's being written.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so you're asking.
What's the point of saying "Hear Israel"?
Okay. What am I supposed to do? I guess help me out here.
How can I hear something?
Yeah.
Again,
how can I hear something? These are words written on a piece of paper.
Okay.
I'm not hearing anything. It's not possible to hear something.
It's not possible to hear
when no
something
one's
that you're
speaking
reading.
to me. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
reading something.
How? So I'll make this. How can I hear something that is written? Good. Okay. How can I hear something written? Good. Okay.
Who is speaking?
Okay. Why do you need to know that in order to do something? Is that pertinent to the ability to do something here?
Because it's saying.
It's interesting, but do I need that information in order to follow this directive?
In other words, if the source isn't a good source, then.
Okay. So you're asking.
Then a question.
Okay, fine.
as to what
Okay.
you-
Who says? Who says? Okay, next pasuk. ואהבת את השם אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. Any questions or problems with that? And you shall love Hashem your God with all your heart and with all your soul, with all your means.
What does that mean? What does it mean with all your heart? What does it mean? How do I love with all my heart? How do I love with all my means?
Okay, be a little more aggressive. I mean, be a little more.
Love is an emotion. How can you command me to love?
Okay. How can you, excuse the shorthand, command to love? Good. Anything else? Lawrence, what were you saying before?
What does it mean, all my heart, all my means?
Okay. So what does it mean? Okay. What does with all ... mean? Okay. Anything else? Look.
What is the difference between heart and soul?
Very good. Saying heart versus soul. Why, heart versus soul? What's the difference? Versus soul. What difference? Okay. Anything else in the phrasing?
Why does it say it? Why not just say V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha?
No, grammatically that wouldn't work.
Okay.
That wouldn't work grammatically. Oh, fine. I'm saying that's okay. I would write it down. It's a legitimate question. It would be a simple answer. I have one. I think it's kind of obvious. It's kind of like screams out. I guess it's similar to what Alex said, heart versus soul, when it says with all your heart, with all soul, with all your means. Isn't it superfluous? Just say with everything. I say with all this and all this and all this. So just say with everything. Okay? Why repeat? There's no need for repetition. Okay.
Because it means there are different stages of different
Okay.
levels of love.
Okay, we'll see. Let's see, what time is it? We have to. Okay, we can do a little bit more. Then, and these words which I command you this day shall be upon your heart. Questions about this? Questions, problems with this? You know what? Wait, before we...
This doesn't really command you to do anything.
What? Why? It's telling you to do something.
And these words which I command you this day shall be upon your heart. It's something that you can do.
What does it mean to be
Well,
upon your heart?
it seems to be telling you to do something. What?
What does it mean to be upon your heart?
Wait, how did you phrase it? No, how did you phrase it? Wait, I'm sorry, just go back to your phrasing.
Why is this...
No, it's not what you didn't start off with why.
No. There's nothing in this statement that says that you're supposed to do something.
We've got to put some...
You had a much better phrasing before.
Sorry.
I think you said it's not possible to... Is this along the line? No. To ask from scratch. Go ahead. However you want. Sorry. That's also possible. What did I say? Just go from scratch.
No, I was just thinking that there's nothing in this statement that says that we need to do anything. It's not a commandment.
But it's phrased like a commandment. Just saying, am I supposed to do something or am I not supposed to do something over here? I mean, okay, I'll just write. I'll say, there's nothing here to be that needs to be done. Okay?
Right.
Nothing here
It almost seems that it's saying, and the words that I just said to you, you're going to keep with you.
Okay, but you're saying, like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like, okay, now.
Okay, so why shouldn't they be on your soul as well?
What? Why can't they be on your soul? Right, okay. So, very quickly, which ones of these are Sheila-Question, which ones of these are Kushya-Attack? What is Hashem?
Sheila.
Right, we did before. We'll just do, let's say, this will be a Sheila. Here, blue will be a Sheila, because it's innocent. And red is not innocent. Okay, so what is Hashem as a Sheila? How can I hear something written? Sheila, Kushya, very good. Kushya. Because it really only sounds innocent. It's like, how can I hear something written? How? It's basically saying, I can't hear something written. You're telling me something that doesn't make sense. Okay? Who says?
I think it depends on how you say it.
Yes, it does.
Who's saying this?
You're saying who says could be Sheila-Question?
Yeah, who says? Or you can say, oh, who says this?
Sounds like more like a Kushya to me.
You think? Yeah.
Who says?
That's what I'm saying. Like it depends on how you say it.
Okay.
I think you came up with this one. Right? But you actually mentioned who's saying this.
Yeah.
What did you mean? You mean it as a Sheila or as a Kushya?
Actually, as a Kushya, I would say.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Now here's the test.
No,
In order to be defined as a Kushya.
No. Because actually, initially when I said it,
You were saying who was actually saying it.
Yeah. It's actually a Sheila.
But here's the test. In order for something to be a Kushya, it needs to be able to be turned into a statement of certainty. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Because even though this is phrased like a question, how can I hear something? How can I hear something written? It's actually stating you can't hear something written. That's what it's actually saying. Whereas what is Hashem cannot be turned into into a statement of certainty. It really doesn't know. It's missing information. This one is not really missing information. It only sounds like it's missing information. It actually has its own opinion, which is you just told me something that doesn't make sense. Yeah. How can you command to love? Sheila or Kushya? Absolutely a Kushya. Right? It's basically saying turn that into a statement of certainty. Turn that into. You can't command someone about his emotions. Okay. What does with all your heart mean? Sheila. Right? Heart versus soul. What's the difference? Sheila. Right? No need for why need to say this and this and this? Just say everything. Kushya. Basically, turn it into a statement of certainty.
You don't need to repeat yourself.
You don't need to say it three times. It's superfluous. There's no need for it.
But that doesn't necessarily undermine the validity of the original statement, right?
It's not really saying you're wrong with what you're saying, but it's saying what you're saying doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to say this and this and this. You could, for no reason. You could just say everything. So sometimes a statement of certainty is not necessarily you're wrong. It could be what you're saying doesn't make sense.
But in this case,
yeah, similar.
In this case, where it's a statement of the Torah.
Yeah.
So we know that every word in the Torah is there for a reason.
Yeah.
So maybe it would be a Sheila and say, well, why are we repeating ourselves?
So I hear what you're saying. You're saying, well, no one's really planning to attack and actually say with certainty to the Torah you're wrong, but because really it's all fake. Meaning because the person who's attacking knows that the attack is going to be removed. Okay,
right.
He's attacking because at the end of the day he is looking for more information. Okay, but he's doing it by being aggressive and saying what he's saying doesn't make sense, because usually what will happen is a Sheila will ask a question, then an answer will be given, and now that the person has more information, he will then come and attack. That attack will lead to a much better understanding, eventually. But at that stage, it's basically it's like artificially saying, or not artificially. It's like saying, I'm going to make believe that you're wrong, because there's a hole here. There's something missing in our understanding, or in your phrasing, or in the context. And therefore, I'm going to attack you on it until it's clarified. Okay? What does that say? Nothing here needs to be done. Okay? When he said, and these words shall be on your heart. Sheila or Kushya? Kushya? Right? Okay. Now, if you wanted to, we could very easily come and say, okay, let's take this one as an example. Okay? So if this were a sugya, okay, if this were a sugya, which it is in Masechet Brachot, and it came and says, how can I hear something written? So what could be possible? This is a kushya. Okay? It's not possible. You're telling me Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel. So How am I supposed to hear that something that I'm reading? What could be a teretz on this?
Well, we're writing down something that somebody said.
Okay, we're just telling you what someone has said. Okay, good. What could be other teretzim for it? So I'll give you an example of what the Gemara comes and says. It says, well, the word Shema is trying to tell you that when you recite this, because this is the obligation of reciting the Shema, right? You're supposed to, you're supposed to actually say them. That's what it says in the next pasuk. You shall teach them to your son. They should be on your lips, right? You're supposed to actually say them. It says Shema. It says the word Shema because it means that when you say it, you actually have to hear it. So when you say these, when you observe this commandment of Hashem, you actually have to hear it with your own ears. That's why when we say the Shema, we say it out loud. Versus other parts of the davening that we say silently, right? But the Shema, part of the obligation of saying Shema is that you actually have to hear it with your own ears because it says Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. You need to hear the words Hashem is our God, Hashem is one. Okay, so I can't hear what's written, but I can hear what is said out loud. And the Gemara comes and says, okay, from these words, Shema Yisrael, we learn that you need to say it out loud enough that you could actually hear it with your own ears. Okay, so that's just an example. So if, and that question that you asked is in the Gemara, and the answer that's given is the answer I just said. Okay, but this comes from just the Tanaim looking at the Psukim, trying to understand them, and based either on their logic or on what they were taught, or the other texts that they're familiar with, because they have vast knowledge. They ask the questions, they argue with each other, because you can come back and say, that doesn't make sense, because then it should be phrased a little bit differently, or it should be phrased more specifically. Or why you could have just said it like that. And I'd say, no, you couldn't say it like this because it also needed to include some other meaning of what it says somewhere else.
What if you're deaf?
What? Or you could ask, you would ask, okay, what does a deaf person do? Is there a deaf person patur from Kriyat Shema because of this? Excellent question. That would be a whole sugya in itself. Another question the Gemara asks is, well, if I need to hear it, can I say it in any language I want? Because is it hearing these words, or is it hearing words that I can understand because I need to understand that Hashem is one? So that would be, after I explain to you, you need to hear it, you'd say, well, why do I need to hear it? Because these words are magical words, or because I need to understand the idea? And if so, can I say it in any language? Can you say it in any language? Can you?
No.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah. Well, there's machloket actually. Rabbi and Chachamim.
Isn't there always?
What? Usually. Machloket Rabbi and Chachamim, can it be said in any language or not? Okay? The answer is yes, it can be said in any language. Okay? Because Rabbi was a lot more about the formality of it. These words, these words, these actual words are the ones you need to hear and tied on your arms and on your doorposts. Whereas Chachamim come and say, well, it's more about that it's a lot more about the understanding than about the actual syllables and the sound waves hitting your eardrums. Okay. Actually, where do they actually respectively learn it from? Actually, Rebbe, who says you're allowed to do it in any language, learns it from the word Shema, because it says Shema in any language that you can hear. And the rabbis come and say, the rabbis who come and say you can say in any language and say Shema b'chol lashon she'ata shmen, any language that you could actually hear. Okay, as long as you are hearing it. And a rabbi says no. It says v'hayu advarim that these words shall be. So it's these words specifically. Okay. We've gone off topic, but the reason I wanted to do this is to come and see how the discussion that we're having right here, just by trying to understand the Psukim, is the discussions that the Tanaim are having. They're having it at a much higher level. They're each bringing in a lot more proofs, and they had the confidence of knowledge and context and years and years of learning to do this. But the discussion that we just had here the last 10 minutes is a discussion that the Gemara has. These exact discussions. And it's like, wow, that doesn't sound that difficult. Well, it is and it isn't. I'm just trying to prove that it's most of it is really very, very logical. And it's just a matter of cracking the discipline of, just like when you're learning math, you got to know what you're looking at. But the discussions are not on some, they're all logical, legal discussions and arguments and analysis based on sources, based on how the discipline has developed. And the thing that we're really, really missing is the 7 stages, or how to identify the different stages. Question, and then we're just going to very, very quickly look at the pages I gave out, which will prepare the ground for us for next week.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I know it's not. It's just on the Shema. So, wouldn't a question to, well, you should say it out aloud, be so that you hear it? Where does it say that I have to say it? You can say it for me, and I've heard it, right? Like,
you're saying, can a person
another person?
So that would be an excellent question. Can a person fulfill his obligation of doing this by listening to someone else? Okay, that would be an excellent question. That would be part of that sugya. Because if it's all about the hearing, then but I would answer. Anyone take a shot based on the psukim? How would you answer that question in a negative way, saying no? It's saying because it says it's talking about you. You need to tie down your hands and you need to put it on your heart. So it would seem that all these things need to be done by you yourself. But if I were to argue that, I would want to back that up as something. I would try to figure out where I could prove this from, if I had some kind of source for it. Or I say, well, this wouldn't make sense to me, and you would say, well, that doesn't make sense. You would bring your own source. Okay. So I just want you guys to look very quickly at these 2 pages. Okay. So what we have here is some of the most common function words for each one of the 7 stages. Although you'll see there's Meimra, Sheila, Tshuva, Kushya, Teretz, Raya, no stira. Stira has very, very, very few function words. Okay, just like Tshuvot, because answers also don't tend to have function words because every answer is going to be different. But for instance, if you look at Meimra, okay, by the way, again, what's highlighted here are words that we are going to encounter ourselves. Things are not highlighted, we will not be encountering in the foreseeable future, but they're really important words to have on our vocabulary list. So for instance, the phrase Tanu Rabbanan, which translates to the rabbi said, this will always be the base. This will be a statement. That will be the beginning of a discussion. Tani or Tanya also is the Braita taught. By the way, in my translations, or anything that's in parentheses is not an actual translation, but it's what it means. Okay. Itmar would be. It was said. This would be a quote by them of some Amoraic source, right? Because from the word Amar, Amoraim, we've seen this, right? Look at Sheila, the very first one, Mai. Okay, the most common question in all of Gemara is going to be Mai, because there's a lot of variations of it. It will be Mai Binayu, which is what is the difference. It will be, if you look 2 down, Mai Tama. We're going to see that very quickly in our sugya. Mai Tama is what is the reason. Okay, but it's basically a Mai. Anytime you see the word Mai, there's like 20 different kinds of Mai, but they all start with Mai because Mai is what? So what is the source for this? What is the reason for this? What is the difference? What is the scenario? Any one of those is all going to start with the word what, which is Mai. Okay?